We're on. Welcome all.
You really need this.
Yes. Welcome, everyone. This is Lisa Edinburgh, Chair of the Westborough School Committee. Today is Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. This meeting of the Westborough School Committee is called to order. Please stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I'd like to notify everyone in the room with us tonight that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed by Westborough TV. School committee meetings are available for remote viewing or listening on Westborough TV's government channels, Verizon 28 and Charter 192, and online on the Westborough TV YouTube channel. Thank you to Westborough TV for covering the broadcast this evening. We have with us tonight Superintendent Amber Bach, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Daniel Mayer, Director of Finance and Administration David Gordon, Vice Chair of the Westborough School Committee Steve Durrett, School Committee members Kristen Vincent, Raghunandan, and Stephen Batchelor, our student representative Aratrika Ghosh. Recording Secretary Jen Benton is not with us tonight, but is watching the meeting from elsewhere. And we have staff from Westborough TV here. And I'd like to personally welcome everyone sitting in their living rooms at home or elsewhere, and those sitting in front of us. So our agenda for this meeting is as follows. We'll begin with an approval of minutes from the January 18th, 2023 regular session meeting. Then hear from Amber Bach with the superintendent's report, followed by the assistant superintendent's report. Then we'll hear from the Director of Finance and Administration, continuing the meeting with the school committee member reports, followed by the building project updates. We'll then potentially hear from some citizens during citizens' requests. Then we'll have a budget update, followed by our second review of school committee policies, and then even some more policies. We'll continue with a second review of the 2023-2024 school calendar. Soon thereafter, the superintendent will offer a mid-year update of her goals. And finally, we'll end our regular session with an update of the mid-year report of the 5-year strategic plan. Then we'll move into an executive session meeting and conclude with an adjournment for this evening. So let's begin with an approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the January 18th, 2023 regular session
So moved.
minutes? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's a 5-0 vote, 5 being present. And we'll move on to the reports. We'll start with the superintendent. Amber?
Thank you. Good to see all of you tonight. It has been a really great set of school days since I last saw you. I think Daniel and I have both been to almost all 6 buildings circulating again. We're on a fairly tight routine this type of year, making sure that we are in classrooms, working with principals, watching the implementation of all the goals and objectives that the district is working on, and just the feeling in buildings is very, very good. I think the opportunity to have no interruptions in our scheduling continues to create a sense of momentum, and I, just feel good about where we are, and I'll highlight that during, kind of the goals highlight as well. But just really enjoyable to be attending events and doing a variety of things, but mostly just being in classrooms and the quality of work going on is pretty exciting. I had a chance to be at Mill Pond end of last week for a presentation in the 6th grade by a couple classes that were doing a Caldecott Award celebration where we came and had to judge, and it was a set of phenomenal presentations. I have to say, is the preparation, the PowerPoints, their defense, and their presentations were so high quality. It just, you look at excellence in a district where we graduate students who can present, can work in teams, can make plausible arguments based on fact and opinions woven together effectively. It was a really great highlight to just see the trajectory of really good face-to-face instructional work in our district. I also had a chance to go last night to see the volleyball dedication of the state award, and the girls basketball team was playing. They were winning when I left at halftime, and they've continued to have a really good season. So it's just been a really nice week. I'm going to take a moment during my report to just pull up another point of information that doesn't have another place to fall on the agenda. So I'm going to take a moment and update you on that now. So I had Bob Ferguson prepare this memo and attach it for you. It's a point of informational update as of now. It's a requirement by the water department and state inspection codes that we are going to have to make corrections to the custodial closets and places where we have chemicals available to get into the water system. The memo details pieces for you around how that came to light. It appears that years ago, there was kind of a breakdown in the transition of information and the cycle of regular inspections, and the head of the water department is working on rectifying that. The state asked for the compliance to come into line, and we're working to set that up. Currently, I'm kind of fast tracking the information to you because I want to make sure that I keep you informed. It's about 28 closets that would require plumbing modifications, and Bob's laid it out for you in here. Additionally, there is a system in the baseball field that is non-compliant that eventually will need to be fixed as well. I think all in, you're looking at about $100,000 for those repairs probably. And he's detailed some preliminary rough order of magnitude kind of based upon what he's heard thus far from G&L Plumbing. If they need to be done right away, quote, for compliance by the close of the year, I gave Christy a heads up and I gave Lisa a heads up that we might well need a warrant article in order to make sure that we would be able to cover those costs. Right now, it looks like additional further discussion indicates that we probably would have over a year of a window to potentially bring those things up to code, and we might be able to come to fall town meeting with that request and then do the work across the span of next year and next summer, as opposed to between now and the end of this summer. So the timeline is just being defined for us, and the level of compliance and speed. So this memo gives you just a point of information. You can read it at your leisure just to see the detail. And then I am trying to have them give us the cost estimate by the end of February, because the warrant closes at the end of February. If it looks like, and Bob Ferguson just followed up again with Josh at the water department, it seems that now that the paperwork is in compliance with the state, that they're willing to work with us on the timeline for completing the repairs. I certainly, I don't feel like we have to run to get that done, but I do think against the fact that you either have March or October for two opportunities to bring forward a funding request, I wanted to put it onto your radar. So we'll start there. I will keep you updated, and we'll push to get the estimate as soon as possible, and then probably in writing from the water department the window of time needed to actually be in compliance, as opposed to just verbal discussion. I think we need to see it in writing. We need to lay it out and make sure that everything is understood by all the parties. So that's just an update I wanted to provide for you. I have one other that I just, again, want to mention as an important verbal update. Remember, I spoke with you several months ago indicating that we had gotten a call that the state was going to develop potential use of the Sharp building to do refugee housing. They are working to access spaces they own that they can come into and work with across different areas of Massachusetts. We received an update call that they are planning to move forward with updating the space requirements and code at the Sharp building in order to turn that into emergency housing. I don't know anything more than that. It's been a moving target. You know, it went from they're going to arrive 5 to 11 families in the next 6 weeks to it now being 6 months. Certainly the code issues at the Sharp building would be, take time to get into compliance for them to house people. And I will keep you updated as that moves forward. Christy Williams sent us an email today. She's done a great job to keep us in the loop. We pulled together all the necessary kind of anchor people that are impacted by the need to be prepared. And she's asked for a meeting with the state again to see if they can give us a tighter timeline and a trajectory of number of people that could be housed in that space. Arguably, I would certainly be asking for some clear limitations on the number of families with children that can and should be placed there, given if it's a large, a large space, and they're saying it could be 45 or 50 families. That's in effect like dropping an apartment building in that's unanticipated in our code in terms of our planning. So certainly impact things for us to think about. And while that housing would be transitional in the sense that they would be then looking to move people to permanent housing, I would well imagine that if they renovate that space and bring it up to code, it would become a stable rotational housing facility for them for refugee or emergency homeless shelter. So that just feels logical if they're going to put in that time. They're certainly not going to then turn around and leave it empty in 6 months. So I think those are things that we have to be aware of and think about. I promise to keep you updated. Putting emotional energy into planning that hasn't, gelled yet is really not useful emotional energy. So as soon as it becomes something that requires clarity, then, I'll participate in those meetings and update you. I think that's it for now. And that's my update.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Daniel, what do you have for us?
I have nothing to report tonight.
Okay. And Dave?
Nothing additional to report.
Okay. That was quick. We'll move right along to the school committee member reports, but first we'll start with student liaison, Aratrika Ghosh.
I don't have too much to report from our last meeting, but I want to say that the transition to second semester has gone pretty well at the high school, and students were able to get through midterm weeks. Everything went just pretty well. The civics case course study class at the high school, the seniors had arranged to speak about various policies within our handbook concerning discrimination at Westborough High School, and proposed specific proposals to Mr. Callahan and other members of the high school administration. Mr. Callahan and the rest of the administration has been very receptive to all of those requests, and I just appreciate the collaboration and that effort, along with Mr. Cullen's guidance, to make that project as a class. I'll also say that this week is the last week for parents or students to submit any photos into the yearbook if they'd like. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There hasn't been much since last meeting.
Well, thank you. And policy discussion tonight could be very, very interesting because we've got quite a few policies, including that one. So next, Steve Batchelor.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Okay. Kristen Vincent.
Yeah, I just want to share that I attended a meeting Monday evening of project graduation, and planning is underway for project graduation. This is a group of parents who put on the memory walk event the night before graduation on the football field. And then the evening of graduation, they put on an event at Teamworks. Every senior at Westborough High School is invited. It's a lock-in event with entertainment from late into the evening till kids are released at 6 a.m. So a great turnout for the initial planning meeting. Lots of junior parents there ready to pay it forward, and lots of underclassmen parents there as well. Kim Keogh and Karen Henderson did a great job kicking off, and I look forward to helping out with that. If anyone's interested in learning more about Project Graduation, they can go to www.projectgraduationwestborough.org and just spell out Westborough, the whole Borough. Graduation is June 3rd. Some people know that already, but some people didn't. It's always the first Saturday in June. And anyone is welcome to participate in project graduation, whether you have kids at the high school or not, whether your kids have already been through high school. And they're also actively accepting donations for all of the amazing things that they do for the students that evening. Thanks.
Extraordinary traditional event in Westborough Public Schools. Raghu, do you have anything for us this evening?
I don't have anything tonight, thanks.
Okay, and Steve, we're going to wait for the building update from you?
I'll defer.
Okay, so I have one major thing for my school committee in my report. I want to remind each of the school committee members or any potential members who might be listening out there that on May 4th is the annual event of Day on the Hill. This is when school committee members can reach out and go to an event in Boston on the Hill and meet our lawmakers, the representatives, Hannah Kane and Kate Donahue. So I would like you to hold the event. This is the first time it's been on the Hill in Boston in several years while they were renovating the building and then during COVID. So it's a great day, and I've attended at least 5 of them. And you really learn so much about the direction that our legislators are moving towards in education. There are speakers, and it gives you an opportunity to develop your own thought process about their procedures, and gives you time with our reps to find out more about what they're doing and give them your opinions about things that we're doing. So May 5th, Day on the Hill. I figured I will not be there this year for the first time, but let you all know. So we'll move right along to the building project update. Steve Durrett.
Well, there's 2 things to talk about. One is where is Fales? It's over there, by the way. And the other is the Hastings work that we've talked about off and on for a long time. Fales, where we are financially, is we have $45,000 left in the budget relative to cash that we could spend. We have on the order of $863,000 worth of encumbered project, which are, excuse me, a good portion of those encumbrances have been denied by the building committee. But since it's not a done deal until we have final negotiations and settlements on those items, we'll work through those. The project was supposed to complete on or about the 24th of August, and the last item that needs to be cleared, which is supposed to start the final injection of the necessary antifreeze in the system the following week. But until that's done, the project is not complete, and therefore there are a number of days since August, I believe the 24th, which count in regards to negotiated settlement values. So it's still outstanding as to how much money we'll have left over, but we expect to have somewhat more than the than the 45,000 that truly is ours yet to spend if we chose to. As far as Hastings goes, the documents relative to the HVAC and ADA, are in the works. We hope to get them out to bid so that by town meeting that we'll have a fixed price quote that could be awarded if town meeting votes the funds. That's pretty much where we are, and obviously it's winter as today.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Steve? Okay, so we'll move right along to the next agenda on our list, and that would be citizens' request. Is there anyone here tonight that wishes to make a statement to the school committee? Okay, I'm just going to read the policy that we have regarding citizens' requests. Number 1, you must be a current resident of Westborough. Speakers are allowed to address the school committee about issues within the school committee's purview, Westborough School Committee policy or budget. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak to the school committee. Written comments longer than 3 minutes may be presented to the presiding chair before or after the meeting. You're welcome to hand me additional comments in writing now or send them via email, and I will share them with the other school committee members. Public comment by residents at this meeting is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between individuals and the school committee. It is an individual's opportunity to express an opinion on issues within the school committee's authority. Our role is to listen carefully to what you have to share with us tonight. Clapping, cheering, calling out, or any other noise following a speaker is not allowed. A reminder that if not following the policy, this may cut into your time. Additionally, I want to remind members of the school committee that when making a point of order, please address your concern to the chair initially rather than to the speaker. So, who would like to speak? Come forward. Please state your name and speak into the microphone. Your name and address, please.
Boyd Conklin, 8 Water Street. So I just got the numbers from the assessor on the Hastings building and all the other buildings in the school purview. And Hastings, he's got the building at 15 million now. This is this year's number. So that gives you a 3-year max renovation of about 5 million. And I guess that if you keep it under 5 million for the HVAC system, then it doesn't trigger the ADA, Massachusetts Architectural Access Board standards, or that would be 1.7 million per year. So you should keep that in mind for cutting the costs of your school renovations. If you don't have to do the ADA, let's not do it. You know, it's not like people that are handicapped can't get into those buildings already. And then Pete Dunbeck over at Sustainable Westborough has got a May 13th energy fair again, which I presented at last year. And so I'd like to present data at that again this year. He's given me some problems, so I don't know who I talked to. We've got some other people that like to present current data. Here's some CO2.
Point of order, the energy fair isn't anything with our purview.
I think she's saying it's not part of her
in your building.
The energy fair is not run by the school.
You're
It is not.
loaning the building out? So I
Yep.
should talk
Many
to,
times the community members do.
I should talk to Wendy about it then? I mean, not Wendy, I should
know.
talk to Christy Williams, the manager of the school, of the,
To talk to the organization organizing the fair.
The community does use community school buildings.
well, Christy Williams is on the board there at Sustainable Westborough, so I'll talk to her. Anyways, it's still pertinent to the school board since climate change is one of the big topics that you push at the schools, to the fear and loathing of the future for our children. Here is 140 million years what the CO2 levels were, 2500 parts per million, and we're down to 410 parts per million now. So we could easily go up to 800 parts per million with no problem. Here shows the, if you increase the CO2 level, we get 2 times the plant growth on the planet. And also, this shows the sea level rise. So before Obama's property at 8 feet above sea level on Martha's Vineyard, before the seawater laps the foundation, that'll take about 800 years at the present rate. So for Westborough to be underwater, it'll take about 30,000 years. So I'm not too worried about that. So thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who's here for citizens' requests? Okay, so we'll move right on to the next agenda item. Our next agenda item is a budget update. Amber's going to walk us through that. What do you have for us?
Thank you. This is just to make sure that we keep providing just an opportunity where we keep the budget process in front of the community at our public meeting to let them know that, we're continuing now at this phase to hold public discussions. So we attended the summit and were able to present all of the overview items that impacted the development of the budget number. I thought it went very well. We were able to have a whole range of conversation and gather questions. I don't see us necessarily, we haven't received a lot of additional requests for information in terms of questions people have about the overall budget from FinCom or from Select Board. I imagine we'll end up going back to both of those committees. That Dave and I already went to FinCom once, and so we're just in the public forum discussion phase. And after I finalize all the additional dates for public meetings that we'll be going to, I'll share those with you at our next agenda meeting. And then I think from that, nothing has changed in terms of budget requirements or needs. We're just, sticking within the stabilization, other than the update around the plumbing issue, which would be potentially an article. And I'm hopeful that that will be one that we would bring in the fall instead. So again, just checking in if you have any questions, any follow-up on your behalf, but we will keep it as a standing item as we do fails, so that if we have updates around the budget, I can provide them between now and when we do town meeting.
Okay.
So that's it for tonight.
Yeah, it was a great budget summit with the other committees and departments in town, and to hear exactly what's expected at town meeting. There was a draft on, it's the final draft on the website, the town website. So everyone can look at the entire town budget that's proposed for the annual town meeting in March.
We spent most of, we always need time to talk about circuit breaker. I would say that was where we spent, a portion of our discussion time. I think they asked about the budgeted anticipation of $400,000 in tuitions, and we indicated that that was an appropriate allotment. As every component of your budget is an estimated of anticipated costs, and that from what we know about how the tuitions function, that was both a conservative but stable estimate of anticipated costs in that line item. And I think that kind of helped for people to understand that. And I don't think there were any other large items of.
Other than circuit breaker, I think there was, trying to think of what other discussions we've had. At FTE.
I think there was a question about the bus percentage, why it was 3% versus 7, which
That
is.
was at the AFC meeting,
Yeah.
not at the summit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, but we were able to clarify for them that our close tracking of billing and double runs and making sure that we're only paying for service rendered continues to give us opportunity to keep our overall costs within the budget allotment. I think that's where we left it, and that we were carrying enough in the 3% to add a bus if needed. And so, so I think that's it for updates as of now. I think we'll start continuing the presenting phase, and we'll see what we get invited back to do. I'm not sure if they think we need to go back to Select Board, or whether for Select Board they continue that. I think they consider that their public hearing meeting with us because they are in session at that time. But if they need us for other questions, we will plan on attending again. So that's
Okay.
it for tonight.
Well, thank you very much. So we're going to move right on to policy updates. I'm going to start our school committee policy agenda item with some remarks, as I think I did a disservice by not a great introduction 2 weeks ago. Good policy is basically good management. Education reform has clearly defined policymaking as a critically important responsibility for school committees. Policymaking and updating is a tremendous responsibility to the smooth and effective operation of the schools. The MASC, the Massachusetts Association of School Committee Policy Service, is an invaluable resource to school committees as they develop guidelines that will help our committees and the staff in the decision-making process. They provide reliable information and assistance in policy support services. As members, which we are, of MASC, we have access to sample policies from MASC's policy files and from NSBA's, the National Education Policy Network. Periodically, throughout the year, the MASC Policy Subscription Service provides all school committees sample policies that have been developed based on state and federal legislation, as well as other important educational topics. There are links in our documents to these laws and citations. And if you have a PDF copy, you will not be able to click on these important links. I'm going to remind you that the MASC Policy Reference Manual contains sample policies which conform to the Education Reform Law of 1993 and other state and federal laws and regulations. Tonight, we have 20 policies up for review. They are numbered 1 through 21, and I've left out number 14 in the document you received since it seems appropriate to receive a leadership review of the elements MASC recommended in their sample policy on discipline. Feedback from our last meeting has fostered a change to all the policies before you this evening that reminds all that each policy will have a clause of exception should the policy be deemed in contravention, that is, in conflict of law, Massachusetts General Law, or Westborough Town Charter. I want to thank our committee for its feedback last time, as it allows us to hopefully be able to move forward this evening with updating policies that had not been reviewed in quite some time. So, 21 policies is a lot. We can either review and then vote next time, or we can just simply review and vote this time. We can take some tonight. We could do some next time. I am going to start with the 13. And first, let me just ask you, what is the preference of our committee? Because it is our policy review. It is our potential vote. If you'd rather do it like we did last time, that's fine with me. That was to go through each one, decide which ones you want to discuss, and then we could make a motion on a group of them as a block at once and see where it takes us. Is the last process seem okay with my committee?
Okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to add that within the past year, Massachusetts Association of School Committees has fostered a partnership with all of the student representatives across Massachusetts through Massachusetts Association of Student Representatives. That association has also released guidelines around certain policies. I'm fortunate enough to chair that association, so I'd be happy to email those resources over after this meeting, if that would be helpful.
And we do have access to all of them. Okay. In fact, we actually, by being members of their organization, or as yeah, we're members. We actually are on listservs of theirs. We have all access to all their data and their research, and we have access to call them at any time to ask any question that we don't know the answer to on our own committee. I have called them many times about, over the last 6 years. They are very helpful, and if they don't know the answer, they say, I don't know, and they point you in a direction, which is also good, especially in the last years where COVID exceptions seem to be the case versus the norm, and they really were a helpful database and a lot of information. But thank you. It's good to know that even some, maybe even the policies they've recommended as, proposed policies come from an established group themselves and input from students, and yeah.
Did you just say that you had students give some feedback to the principals on this?
Yes, so that was separate. So there's a civic case course study for, it's an elective course for seniors to take. And in that course, the students prepared policy proposals for the administration at the high school to review. And so far, the administration's been very receptive to all of those proposals. Right. The Massachusetts Association of Student Representatives is all of the student representatives like myself sitting on different school committees within one organization partnered with Massachusetts Association of School Committees.
Okay. So I'm going to go through 1 through 21 and see which ones you would like to discuss before a potential discussion or vote. Okay? So, starting with number 1, DBC, budget deadlines. 2, DBD, budget planning. 3, DBG, budget adoption procedures. 4, DBJ, budget transfer authority. 5, DD, grants, proposals, and special projects. 6, DGA, authorized signatures. 7, DH, bonded employees and officers. 8, DI, fiscal, accounting, and reporting. 9, DIE, audits. 10, DJ, purchasing. 11, DJE, procurement requirements. 12, DK, payment procedures. 13, KCD, public gifts to schools. Number 14, as I mentioned, I have skipped specifically because I think it requires feedback from leadership team and principals. It seemed very, very detailed, the proposed policy from MASC. Number 15, JICA, which is student dress. 16, AC, non-discrimination, including harassment and retaliation. 17, ACR, non-discrimination, including harassment and retaliation.
I have a question about that one.
Okay. Number 18, GBA, equal employment opportunities. 19, GCF, professional staff hiring. Number 20, JB, equal employment opportunities. And 21, JFBB-1, school choice. So if I'm getting this correctly, we have question and discussion on number 17. And of course, we can have discussion about them as a whole, okay? So we'll move right.
Yeah, it's a quick thing, I think. For ACR, non-discrimination, including harassment and retaliation, there's a spot to put in the name and the position of sexual harassment coordinator, grievance officer, sexual harassment civil rights coordinator, and we just don't have that filled in here. So I don't want to adopt the policy until those folks have been named. And I'm pretty sure they're named in an old policy or a previous policy. I know, like, for different policies, we've had the names of people who hold that role in our district administration.
Okay.
But it's just blank, so I just want to make sure we're not adopting something that I think.
To the extent that you want to do that, I would suggest that the position that they hold, not the individual's name,
Yes,
is what should be entered here.
Which should be there.
it says name/position, so I think it's
Right.
just
It should just be changed to position.
the position and then.
Instead of name.
And
No
then we
name should
actually,
be part of policy.
yeah,
So taking out name, okay.
and
And
then
just
just the
having,
position of the person. And it does also, full transparency, has a place for their address and phone number, but that would be their work address and work phone number if we have to fill that in. Otherwise, I would just assume put the position.
okay. I'm putting in the suggested so
Okay.
that everyone could see the red line version of that.
Great.
And I think there was, it said, was there something else in there? I think this one is Westborough Public Schools. Putting that one in as well.
Yeah, it's just naming like the 504, whatever the names of the positions that hold those responsibilities.
The address would be West.
You can approve it pending,
Yeah.
that Daniel and I assign the proper alignment of position and addresses to it.
Yeah, and I know we have, Title IX and all the there's already people assigned to those.
Right.
Right.
Holding that
Daniel and
responsibility
Sherry
within their
carry the
role.
bulk of
Yeah,
it.
Exactly.
Between the two of them. And then, again, process-wise, things will move through the building level and then supervise through. I mean, I would say, Dana, we could probably fill those in. So I would
would-
say
yeah.
you could just vote.
Say the position is the assistant superintendent and
And
director
student
of
service.
student service.
Yeah,
Director. Okay.
yeah.
So they'll add them in.
Yeah, Andrea can add them in
Okay.
before they're
Yeah.
filed with
Yeah.
MPSC. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure we
Okay.
do that. Okay.
No, these were good
That was my
suggestions.
only question.
Are there other questions about them as a whole? Because we had a lot of discussion last time about them as a whole. We did add that prior sentence. I mean, one idea, I think, Steve and I did discuss this in our subcommittee, that maybe that statement should be in front of all the policies, in terms of just a protective measure, especially when it comes to, even though the Westborough Charter is based upon state and federal laws. So it feels safe to assume they are, but it is one thought for the future as you look at, policies in the future, because they come at random times. Anything else? So should we attempt to vote as a block? Does the committee feel okay about that? Okay, we're going to go for it. I'm going to make a motion to approve policy number, letter DBC, budget deadlines, DBD, budget planning, DBG, budget adoption procedures, DBJ, budget transfer authority, DD, grants, proposals, and special projects, DGA, authorized signatures, DH, bonded employees and officers, DI, fiscal accounting and reporting, DIE, audits, DJ, purchasing, DJE, procurement requirements, DK, payment procedures, KCD, public gifts to schools, and letter DBC.
Oh, JICA, student.
I think I didn't, oh, right. JI, where am I? Sorry. JICA, student dress, AC, non-discrimination, including harassment and retaliation, AC-R, non-discrimination, including harassment and retaliation, of course, with the changes mentioned by Kristen. GBA, equal employment opportunities, GCF, professional staff hiring, JB, equal employment opportunities, and JFBB-1, school choice. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Raghu. Is there any additional discussion?
Thank you for all this work. I know it's a lot.
I knew it was a lot for you to review. Steve Durrett, yes?
I appreciate the fact that modifications were made to these in regards to the comments I made last week. However, I still believe that we put the cart before the horse by making the, if you will, the reader have to read the state rules or the charter rules and to make their own determination whether they're in contravention to the policies that are stated here. And to that end, as I said, I think the cart's before the horse because I believe that the empowerment comes from state law as then modified by the town charter. And if anything, then the subordinate position is by the MASC. And therefore, for items DBC, that's the first one, to DK, I will vote no. The rest of them, I will vote yes.
Okay, so DBC and DK. I'm going to break it up. So we have a second for all of them, and we have to vote on forward. So procedurally, we have to have a vote on all of the 20 that I've mentioned, and then there can be a motion to revote 2 of them. Would that make sense, Mr. Durrett?
Yeah, I mean, to the extent that, that you need to vote them all, then I would abstain.
Okay.
And I guess to the extent that any are reconsidered, then we'll go from there.
Okay, and it was DD and DK, was it?
Yeah,
DD?
the first one, which is DBC to DK.
All the way through to DK or just those 2?
All the way through.
I just want to make sure you know that, Lisa. He's talking about all of them.
1
all
through
30.
12, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so any more discussion about 1 through 20 that have a motion and a second to vote on? Okay, all in favor? We have a 4-0, all opposed?
One absent.
I'm sorry, and any abstained?
One.
So we have 4-0, 1 vote, 1 abstention, 5 being present. And so, Mr. Durrett, do you want to make a motion?
No, I think that's sufficient.
Okay.
You know, like I said, I think this is excess bureaucracy because it's already stated in the references that I gave, and wasting other people's time for my own preference, I guess, is unnecessary.
Okay. Out of respect, we can do it if you would like, but I hear what you're saying, and we can move on. Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the preliminary 2023-24 school year calendar. Daniel's going to walk through us. We started last time looking at this, and members have had a little bit more time to review.
Okay, good evening. So the discussion last time was basically we put the preliminary calendar before you, and there was one correction that we made based on information regarding the March election date. And so we had our March Professional Development Day scheduled for the 12th of the month, but found out that the primary, the national primary was going to be on the 5th. So that is a better day for us to be closed to students, and therefore we moved the date from the 12th to the 5th. Other than that, what you have before you hasn't changed, but I do want, in case there was anything that you saw in the calendar that you have picked up any errors. Every year we, look at it closely and then and somehow find an error or two and have to put out a revised version. So the only other thing I want to reiterate that I brought up last time is we may add 2 early releases to the spring for parent-teacher conferences they are not on here yet. And so I would suggest that we hold the vote until next school committee meeting when I would put those dates on the calendar. I don't know if you want to elaborate at all.
I think that's fine for now, and we'll just bring it forward to you. I think it's nice when people are seeing the calendar and then they just know to look at it again, think about it, and they'd like us to vote it so they can get things booked and organized. So respectfully, I think we would want to get a completed vote at the next meeting. I think it's in good shape. You just have to keep looking at it because we have never gotten it perfect.
This is a tiny, tiny thing. May 27th, June 19th, and July 4th have a different color than the other burgundy that's on the calendar. It's a little redder than the others, and someone inevitably will say, why are those different from the others?
That is into the realm of minutia that I respect, so we will make sure we adjust the color.
Yes. That's a
You see
good-
that?
Yeah, they're brighter red.
Brighter red.
Yeah, and people will want to know
it
why.
has to do with the temperature during those 3 months.
Wow, you're stretching now.
I stared at them for a long time.
For some hidden meaning.
Patricia,
Yeah, sorry, I had a question about Category 1 holidays. So the holidays that fall on weekends, would the Monday after be considered under the homework exemption and such for a Category 1 holiday?
yeah. Yes, so Diwali falls on a weekend this year coming up, and so therefore the holiday homework controls would be in place on the Friday and the Monday, Tuesday after, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And our staff's gotten into a good rhythm for making sure that they're putting out notices pretty regularly for that so that staff can anticipate it in their planning a couple weeks in advance. Great. We also, when we onboard new faculty, walk them through that calendar. That's one of the things I do when I greet people to the district, is I share that calendar policy with them and why it's important to us and what it means around just kind of, supporting our student population. And so it's been a positive implementation for us that we'll sustain. So we'll bring it to you next time for a vote, okay?
Okay.
All right.
So next on our agenda is the superintendent's mid-year update.
All right. So for those of you joining us and for those of you on the committee, you get 2 major reports a year. You get a variety of reports from me, but these 2 are particularly annual and significant, and we don't always put them together. This year we did, so they overlap a lot, and so it was meaningful to provide both of them for you tonight. So I'll roll from the mid-year into the strategic plan with your guidance as we go, Lisa. So you get 2 annual reports. The purpose of mid-year goals for me, just to kind of focus your attention to how this document should serve you, is that you get this report from me, which is a self-check on kind of the original goals that we all voted in the fall, in September. And it's a self-assessment, and I'll walk you through it. And then it serves the purpose of queuing up the start for your preparation to do my summative at the end of the year. So I provide a variety of documents for you. This is one of them. And so it just pushes the goals back in front of you as well, with a little reflection from me on how I think things are going. I then provide a variety of documents for you in the spring that queue you up to go ahead and work with the chair to complete my review. So the second purpose of this report is that it forces me to sit down and reflect and to work with the team to look at what we really targeted for achieving. Both some of those aspects are my personal work, but as one of the members of the leadership team in the district, it's also what I'm helping them frame, hold up, and focus on. And so the mid-year gives us an opportunity to step in and look at that again and see how we're doing. So I find it really valuable. And so tonight I'll be showing you 2 of those updates. I would begin by saying that the way you want to look at this is you remember everything in the notations. I just provide for you in red whether or not I feel like I'm on target with the development of those goals. So when you look at this work here, one of my personal goals was that one of my major pieces of work this year was to implement the new framework of a new strategic plan. So when you develop a new 5-year strategic plan, you've got a lot of moving parts. You've got a lot of big goals. You've got some that are underway, some that need to get started, new committees that need to formulate, things that need to happen. And so I'm also then managing the document differently, and I'll talk a little bit about that when I do the strategic plan review. But given what that work is for the year, it was my professional goal. And in highlighting that, I'm just indicating that I do believe I'm on track with that goal, on target, so that you'll get the end of year report on the strategic plan. I'll be able to get your feedback when I walk you through it today. You can continue to give me feedback between now and the end of the year. And we'll implement that document with a new framework. And so that's what this goal centers on. And so you can obviously read at your leisure. You don't need me to read it aloud. It basically says to you, I'm grappling with all of that, trying to figure out how to leverage that document effectively, how to set aside old systems that we felt kind of didn't work, and to come up with some new routines to create visualization of our work across the district. One of the important pieces about that is that large document, I'm the only person who really floats in and out of it extensively. And one of the things we've found is that it's more effective to take small pieces of it and serve it up to people in more organized ways. And I think that's how we're working with the document currently, how we gave teachers goals this year. And I think that's been effective. And so there's a link there for a sample of how we pulled the goals out and served them up to faculty in a way that they could streamline and focus on them. The second part goal was looking at supporting, as a member of the team, the implementation of the UDL, Universal Design for Learning work, really centers on creating dynamic instructional planning. Really leaning in on the heart of our work being around teaching and learning and the classroom and providing academic excellence for all of our students. What does it take to provide that? What are the complexities of instructional preparation? How do we develop student voice and student autonomy? How do we make sure that our classrooms meet the needs of a full range of learners? All of that work is wrapped up in the ambitious kind of starting year around this work around UDL. I feel really incredibly good about where we are. You have the benchmark of Daniel's update to you in early January, sharing with you kind of celebratory focus on how that work is effective for us in terms of a common discussion around teaching and learning. So at this point in the year, I just want to be clear that we feel like all the benchmarks we set for the jigsaw dates, the meeting dates, the working hours, and generating energy of common language around the way we want to work with staff, I feel like is going very well. I'm one piece of a giant team working on that, and I'm trying to carry my small part of that work. At the end of the year, you'll get a more full summary on the benchmarks for that PD as part of my final report. So again, I feel like I'm on target with that. District improvement goals, if you look like distinctive, very specific ones, instructional leadership, implementing that strategic focus on teaching and learning and wellness and relationships, pulled from the strategic plan. I feel like you see those are on target. I feel like we've exceeded the UDL goal. Our DEI work, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that within the strategic plan. I feel like parts of it are below targets and parts of it are ahead of target. So, around our hiring benchmarks and working on supporting faculty of color that we've hired, or other areas of diversity and equity that we want to make sure they feel supported in our work climate. I feel like we've done some good legwork there. I feel like Mirko working with us on the instructional parts on point. We now are lifting up a second tier of goals that look towards work on self and what comes into that next set of work. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I feel like the green initiatives are on target, looking at getting the behaviors in place to do the composting and recycling has gone well. I think we're below target on implementation into instructional framework in the classroom to make sure we have sustained training on those systems. I don't think it's way off, but I just think it's the next deeper layer of the work. And it's, some of these target goals are happening between now and the end of the year and into next year. So I note it as below target to draw my attention to it. I'm not worried that it's kind of off. STEAM and Makerspace, I feel like we made some really good headway through the close of last year. We had a transition in the science coordinator position at the elementary level, and I feel like there's a little loss of momentum around the planning subcommittee that was working, and they need to draw back together and kind of pick up the ball and run with that a little bit more. But we've seen some really nice work emerging from the ways that makerspaces can flow into classroom instructional design, and we've seen some good club work and target work around that, and it's noted to you in the strategic plan. These are the areas called out in my work around instructional leadership that flows specifically from the strategic plan. I would just say that, it's important to recognize that not every goal can begin at 100%. And one of the things that my leadership job entails is looking at the workload, the pacing, the readiness, and the right time to stage goals and bring them up for focus. And so really allowing a deep look at the UDL, holding other goals a little further away and rotating them in appropriately is a big part of my work with the team. I feel good about the decision-making that we made coming into the start of the year, and we were able to target and direct energy around new initiatives and this next tier of goal work I feel like people are ready for. So, I'm always trying to hold the next ones that need to roll in and work with different subcommittees and different groups, different principals, to know when the timing is right to kind of pick up pace on some other work. Also, on a dynamic team, you sometimes find that work will displace other work because there's energy and commitment to it, and that's important to be responsive to. Most dynamic teams are responsive to the feedback you're getting from the team, areas of interest, and sometimes new things will need to rise up and you'll have to move other goals around. It's important that we don't randomize our work. Like, everything that's of interest can't come into the fold. So your strategic plan also helps you push to the edges things you don't want to work on right now. And so at this stage in the year, I think it's just important for you to have a picture of my role in kind of implementation of this work across the district, and that I think it's going well around the core areas. The ones we hit heavy in the fall that I think we really are exceeding were the UDL, the strategic DEI hiring, and the compost and recycling work. Really were areas of core focus that I think have implemented very well. I think that we continue to sustain a strong SEL framework. You'll hear a little bit more about that during the strategic update. So if you look down into work that centers on envisioning the evaluation, supervision, and coaching model, as well as extended leadership team work to enhance the way we're getting more voice into that work and more leaders at the table. I'd say that's all developing right now, some as part of contract discussions, some as part of just strategic planning, and that's going to have to be completed, hopefully on target, by the close of the year. Some of that just has to move around based upon the pacing of how negotiations and how leadership meetings naturally occur. I feel good that by the close of the year, that work will be bringing us into the summer with some leadership models that have really brought more voices to the table and some planning. As you look at management and operations, I feel like the vast majority of that work around strategic plan is on point. The changing up the way we do communication, I feel like that's off target right now. I would say the consuming most important anchor will be completing the website and the Connect 5 updates, which will be meaningful both for translations and also for better content management. I feel like those are both big projects, and we are on point for those to move forward effectively. I think we had a lot of vision for being able to do more innovative communication with video and some other types of things that we want to engage in. Negotiations is just absorbing too much time. It's effective and meaningful time, but there's only so many chunks of like actual work time to redirect to those new pieces. And I think picking up, we had a couple targets that we missed where we were going to try to do some video to complement memos that we were putting out, and we just couldn't reach it. I don't think it's beyond our grasp, but at this time and place, it's off target because the negotiation window is just taking more time than we thought. Nothing's bad. It's just important to acknowledge that those are the things that require just a reality of reallocating goals and time. Let's see. I do feel incredibly good about the development and presentation work that Dave and I have been able to do together on the budget. I feel like that's gone very well. I feel like we've continued to look towards improving the book, the transparency, the feedback, the loops of communication. I feel that that takes a continual amount of work and care, both in relationships and in the time and effort you're putting into communicating effectively. So, the budget cycle hits hard and fast coming right out of the fall, and I think it's probably invisible how many hours it takes for, us to pull that work together. So by the time we submit that budget in December, there's a lot of work behind those numbers. And I think for this year as a benchmark, I feel like we really exceeded what I would have wanted to get done there. Also feel like around the capital work, we've exceeded expectations on that goal as true partners to come to the table and organize that structure for the town, working with them collaboratively, and I think that work's gone very well and will continue to do so. I know negotiations are working well and moving forward. You see the green initiatives, which I've always commented upon. All of these are multi-year goals that take layers of time to complete, and continually innovating what we want to do with them. We want to establish a green task force, which would bring together student leaders and adult leaders from each of the buildings to be able to help us maintain implementation of cycles of objectives. And I imagine that we push that off till February. So I'm looking to put out the information on that either right before February break or when we return, and organize that task force heading into the spring so that they can help us with the training loops on things. For example, we want to improve the Trex recycling. That's just better as a building-based initiative where we can give them the model and train the trainer, they go out. So, there's just kind of some pieces to put in place there that are part of implementation of this goal this year. Overall, I think it's going very well. I want to look at the hiring work. I feel like we are very excited to continue working with Lawrence Alexander as a consultant who did a really nice job with the leadership team to look at how we frame our hiring, how we welcome candidates, how we explore making sure that the district represents our interest in talented, diverse, unique, and interesting people to come and work here. And so I think we did a nice amount of work with him, and we will continue that. I'm interested in bringing him in to then also go more deeply with us around how to sustain relationship, how to make sure that we are supporting all of our people who come to work here to make sure that they feel like Westborough is a supportive and caring place to work. So I think we have good growth to make in that area. I want to give a shout out to Tammy Costello in HR, who has worked really well on these target goals with a whole team of people. And our membership in the MPDE membership has been really fruitful. They do a lot of really good PD, and they do a lot of PLC-based training of the people in those groups. So it just keeps the thinking on the front burner around looking to the ways we present and work with faculty through the arm of HR, which is that human relationship work. We certainly have more to do with the next tier of goals, but I feel like those are areas where I feel good about what we've achieved. Again, I think I've made a note here that I feel like the return to town organization meetings, plugging back in on that stuff's all on target. I think some of the departments have been really hard to get back to. Connecting with the town departments just takes time to return to some of that relationship work. And so I'm kind of focusing on that now, just circling through meetings with people. And lastly, I feel like our work to do more written communication to faculty outreach from Forbes, from me, from Daniel, I think we did a really good job communicating on the PD work. We upped our communication. We had lots of collaborative communication written-wise, and I think that served us well. I think we need to do more of that in other aspects of our work, and that's a piece where I feel like we're a little below target. So lastly, around professional culture, you can see these for yourself, just the different goals to work on collaboration, to lead WLT with focus. I feel like I've been on point with that goal a lot, really trying to keep us relevant in what we spend our time on so we're not wasting people's time and it's meaningful to the purposes of the district. I think community events, again, always a challenge, but we stay at it. And the website I mentioned is on target. So I guess that would be the summary, bringing you down to my just closing remarks for you personally on thanking the leadership team at summary at the end there, that they've done an incredibly good job to, it's a very hardworking team. And I think they sustain a pretty high level of performance and capacity to do new work. And I just want to thank them for all of that. And I'm one piece of that package of work. I look forward to the second half of the year and kind of staying after these goals. And I guess at this point, I always help you figure out where I think I'm in a strong proficiency range right now. Like I'm, able to be in a place where I'm meeting the expectations of the district and I'm able to accomplish the things I feel you hired me to do. And I think these things are moving forward well. So that's my mid-year. You can digest that, and it's really I'm most meaningful if you have thoughts to, just reach out to me individually. And as areas continue to develop, if there's something here you have a lot of questions about, I'm happy to answer them now. Otherwise, the work will continue to evolve. I'm going to talk more during the strategic plan, too, around some specific goals.
Okay.
That's it.
Questions or feedback?
I just had a question about the SEL sessions. Is who on the team is responsible for crafting the SEL, like the curriculum within the SEL sessions?
So Daniel can help with this. There's layers. There's a core curriculum that they use K to 6, and then there's another curriculum that they use 7 and 8.
It's 6 through 12.
6 through 12, the Trailblazer one.
The Trails.
Trails
It's called out of the
curriculum,
University of Michigan, yeah.
So there's an anchor curriculum that provides a framework, and then the faculty at the high school, as well as leadership team, assistant principals and principal, work to kind of lift out the core components. And I think they stage 12 core lessons that are brought to you guys through the span of the year. You can give them feedback, though, on different pieces of it.
Okay, and the other question I had was about the composting initiative that you mentioned in the first part of the document. Are you referring to like there was like an SEL session focusing on composting at the high school initiative?
So each of the buildings is composting food waste. We're contracting with Black Earth to make sure that instead of food waste being thrown out just directly into the garbage, we've shifted to work on that recycling. So a couple of the schools started right away. I think last year I think you might have heard a report in the fall, like Armstrong did our pilot last year, and then we pushed that out. So yes, you did a specific kind of training that people provided from your environmental club, and they wanted to demonstrate leadership around that implementation. So yes, that's the one arm of recycling. The other is recommitting to looking at the layout of recycling in the classroom bins that people have to make sure that we are recycling what we can and that we aren't just having stuff go into the trash that we could be putting into both the recycle bins and then the composting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions or feedback?
There's a whole tier of improved work in those areas. I mean, you have to get a practice in place, then you refine it, and then you have to really get to a place where it becomes a tight standard protocol for everybody. We're months away from that. You can see the difference in a school like Armstrong where they did it last year. It's a routine, it flows in well. I think our K-3 schools have done a beautiful job. They anchor routines well. They're littler, they do what we tell them, and they've done a really nice job to kind of flow into that routine. We've also purchased compostable trays and some other materials that allow us to really reduce our waste at the elementary setting.
So I have some positive feedback. It's really the goals and the strategic plan. But I read the professional development focus letter that there was a link to. It was sent to teachers in the fall, which sounded as if the professional development this year was developed by feedback from staff. So that was really nice to see. And I was excited to see that links eventually will allow the long-range strategic plan to become more interactive and informative. It seems like a living, breathing document, which is very exciting. The student learning based on universal design for learning is an excellent initiative. It's exciting to see the steady stream of movement on that. We also received an update from Daniel not too long ago. And also the movement of DEI work, green initiatives, literacy and math work, STEAM initiative, for those who don't know, science, technology, engineering, art, and math, and SEL work all have a common trajectory of much work moving forward for academic excellence in our districts. It was great to see movement in your goals. Supervision, coaching, and evaluation processes moving forward on target is good to see. Definitely on target for operations and management, and negotiations are in full swing. And although you see the engagement and communication with communities and families as below target, we at least see the activation of some of those goals for text messaging, to know that there's a renewed website coming by the end of 2023, and future communications about life in school. And as you stated so eloquently, this year has a degree of beautiful normalcy. Yet I'd go further than that. The speed in which you've transitioned from COVID into growth and strong development of many, many initiatives, it seems nothing less than extraordinary. I'm especially grateful and feel fortunate to see your leadership team and the work ethic in action. And I want to thank you and the leadership team for your time and commitment. There's so much work that's been going on behind the scenes, and it's just amazing to read it in your report. So we are going to move on to the strategic plan, the mid-year report, and I just want to say I appreciate how you laid out the report with the highlights and the to-do and review. It was, I thought, such a great way to present it to us. I thought it was a new way, and I thought it really hit the spot of just give us the overview, what's to do and review, and
Yeah,
good.
thanks.
Really good.
I kind of feel like I owe you an apology as well. I feel like I really struggled to get this one done. Like it was like 11:30 last night when I finished this one. Like I just couldn't get it put together. You know, it requires kind of a couple layers, but I feel good about I'm finding some new frameworks. It's going to take me some time to get them where we want them to be. I'll be looking at this tomorrow with the leadership team. I asked them for feedback, and you'll see how they gave us some in the links. And then I lift out what they gave us and what I know where they're doing, and I provided this summary for you. So I'm trying to figure a balance of a new rhythm to create a record on the work while it's also a living document. So there's just pieces that are kind of interesting. They're kind of fun if you have time to do them. You know, it's really neat to go into that document, and you can spend a lot of time in that strategic document just kind of thinking through the different goals and where we are and what we need to get done. So again, this serves one of the major anchors for you as a benchmark for the work of the district and the work of our teams. And the way I framed this was to take the 5 major areas and then just give you also a snapshot, if you want to scroll down, Daniel, of the major priorities in each of those areas. And several years ago, I used to take each priority and I would give you information on every goal that was under there, and that's just too granular. And so instead, I'm clustering these into kind of bigger chunks of feedback. And then the hope is that the document has links, and if you want to go down the rabbit hole of reading all that stuff, you can. You can see different examples of what the goal looks like. And so I'm streamlining some of that process. For this area, some of this I was just talking about in the overlap to my goals, which is logical. You see the green initiatives are moving forward well, as we've just been talking about. Classroom recycling and other things need a whole lot of streamlining and fixing of things. More to come on that, but it's underway. As I noted too, the Makerspace K-6 initiatives, I think, are going really well. And we have some really nice target work in math and literacy courses. We have about 35 faculty embedded in those substantial courses, not just like a workshop, but coursework. And then the discussion of the UDL work that I feel like is moving forward. And the DEI equity-based goals to really look at how they're being targeted through UDL, and then looking at inclusive practices and co-teaching, all flowing under that umbrella of UDL for us, and kind of the themes of the centrality of the classroom, that with good preparational instruction and the differentiation that UDL can give you, you get an opportunity to make sure that you're meeting the needs of all learners. So there's, you know, good stuff going on there. And I would say Daniel, and I'll talk about this in a minute, I'm going to model this for you. For each of these areas, and I'm not actually running the computer, so it's a little bit hard. If you hop into the...
Do you want to?
Yeah, I almost feel like I need it, but you can step me through. Do you have the strategic plan link open?
I don't have it open.
So why don't you open it's in my goal. It's right at, it's in the goal notation.
Over here in
Yeah.
this?
No, it's in the strategic plan memo. Go right there. Go to the bottom. Sorry, we have to do this right. And click on that. There it is right there. Just open that up so I can direct you. So I'm just going to give you a little sampling of the best way to do this and provide a few snapshots, okay? So I'm going to talk about teaching and learning, and then I'm going to take you into the strategic plan document, and I'm going to show you a couple of highlights. So Daniel and I will work together on this. So if you go over to the memo that I was in just now, I just hit the major arena of teaching and learning and our major priorities in that area. And I pulled out some of the large highlights around some of the core goals that I think are going well, okay? If you hop over to the strategic plan, Daniel, I'm gonna have you go down to page 7. And I'm gonna show you how you can use this document a little bit to explore. Go down to page 7. So, yep, right there. And if you click on the composting, planning and implementation, see that link? Over in the right? No, all the way over in the right column, Daniel. Progress and updates, composting, planning and implementation. See that live link? There you go. Thanks. So if you want to then see the work that was done, so Artrika, if you want to see like some of the work that was done around composting and preparation for it, this shows you the work of all the pilot presentations, the presentation we used at planning retreat, and then the district-wide composting data on how many tons of food waste we've already collected. So if somebody wants to move in and out of the document, you can use the links related to the goals to see benchmarks of information. The other area that I would say is scroll down to page 9. And I'm just going to show you a couple highlights here that give you a range of pieces to look at. I'm going to have you look at the makerspace link there. Click that one. So around the makerspace, there's some nice pieces in here for you. There's the committee notes that the agenda of the group was working on to develop what we want to do with makerspaces. There's also a link to some MassQ work, and then there's the Media Center link for Mill Pond, which shows you if you surf around in that Media Center link, you find a whole bunch of the activities that they've been doing in the makerspace. So I think that the way you get benchmark information is just kind of float in and out of the links, and if you want to know about a goal, you can go into the document. If you scroll down to page 15, I'm going to show you one other highlight from learning, and then we'll move into the other parts of the document. So on page 15, if you click on the UDL learning experiences there, that link, Daniel. The way we laid it out was that if that document has multiple places in the document, we use the same landing page. So, you know, it's a piece, it's a little organic how we're figuring it out. So here what you see for 2022-23 is a lot of the presentations we did, the timelines, the SMART goal examples, some communications to staff, examples of one of the jigsaw activities that we did in December at faculty meetings where staff made selections and they could do 1, 2, or 3 and sort for the professional development time. And it shows you kind of a range of the examples of the work going on across the district. So I think they show you the vibrancy and the individualization or the coordination. So sometimes you see there's individual stuff that goes in there where a building has taken off on something. And then you'll see a lot of cohesive planning where we literally planned one presentation that everybody uses because we want to control messaging. So again, I think if you look in the links, you can interact with understanding the goal work, you know, a lot more in a live way. So if we go back to the memo, if you go down to the next section is the highlights in wellness and relationship work. And we have some major priorities there around caring relationships, fostering and maintaining communication, developing equity, anti-bias mindset so everyone can thrive in our district, developing and sustaining district-wide programming and curricular experiences that support mental health. This is where all your SEL goals are. A lot of the DEI goals are in here. A lot of the communication relationship work all falls under this arm of wellness and relationships. And I think it's a beautiful way to frame it. I respected when we kind of designed the strategic plan that all of this work is grounded in all humans having value, all people deserving love and care, all people needing to thrive in the school setting, everybody who comes under the umbrella of public schools being able to find their space and their identity and their support to thrive academically. So when you look at goals around equity, or you look around goals around social emotional health, you look at goals around connecting faculty, all of that's relationship work, and it feeds the wellness of people. And when people feel loved, well supported, and understood, they thrive academically. So for us, the heart of this work sits in this section, and it then kind of morphs into other areas of the academics, but there's a reason why it's housed there, and I think I just kind of want to represent that in the way we designed it. I think the district-wide wellness continues to be just a bright spot. There's so many examples. They do a beautiful job bringing forward both building-based wellness and support and student-based wellness. I think the teacher wellness has really become embedded by building. There's a lot of weekly things that go on. There's a bunch of different examples of just care of self, and they even provide, like tomorrow's Wake Up Westborough in the morning, where there's that group that gets together and exercises at the high school, and it's open to any faculty. And somebody was talking to me tonight saying, like, you got to go, Amber. We haven't been there in months, and we know you like to work out, so get there in the morning. So there's a culture and kind of a norm of caring for each other, which I think has really grown over the last several years. We'll make sure at the end of the year that document link shows a whole bunch of the vibrant examples. There's a couple small ones in there now. There's a whole wellness month, wellness week that was done with Hastings, and there's this whole calendar they put together. That was just one of the teachers who was like, I'm going to frame this so that people can take care of themselves in the morning. And she posted this whole calendar and invited people to join her. And so that's just an embedded example for you of what it means when you create a culture where staff step up to care for each other. And I think if you want to look at that, I think that's down in the wellness section under SEL, wellness activities. Again, the goals for hiring a diverse staff. I think I'm going to take you in there in a minute and show you a couple highlights there. And then the professional development goals, looking at, we have the work with Merco and UDL, Lawrence around hiring and sustaining support for staff, and then meeting the needs of our students within their instructional framework. And now we want to cycle back and lift up a new tier of work around work with self and around all of the equity-based practices that remain essential to keep circulating through. I think lastly, you see some highlights that the nursing support that we extended really has provided a wider safety net for adult support around mental health. And the school counselors, there's some good work in there for you to look at the school counselors who have trained and are now implementing tier 1, 2, and 3 supports, where they're running small groups using data that springboards off that mental health screener. So just some really good anchor work in the district that create kind of a culture of how we live and work here. We still need to work on communication goals to increase the outreach to staff, which I said. We want to further enhance the translation targets, which are a little on lag, but some good things are going on there. And we want to work with students as engaged and trained peer support around SEL. Those are called out, and I think those are areas that we'll be working to kind of pick up and run with. If you go into the document, Daniel, I would have you just go to page 20 for a minute, and I'm going to show you guys one example of a document. Okay, so if you click on the, yeah, if you can probably pick on the equity hiring practice one there. It just, oh no, she didn't give me access to that. Sorry, we have to fix that. Look at the DSE Center for Strategic one. Is that, sorry, I think I had, okay, let me just click on that. So here you just get some notes around work we've done around the grant for strategic initiatives. This is one that Daniel actually wrote and worked on, where we looked at you had branches of work you could do, and we chose the avenue of work where we wanted to support paraeducators to create a pipeline for moving them to teaching if they really brought both relationship skill and work and excellence. Supporting them to shift into teaching has really allowed us to pick up some dynamic people over the last year, and I think Daniel's got several more teachers, para to teacher pipeline pieces of this grant, which I think are just really nice. So in this, again, we record it, we write it, we give you something you can interact with, and if you move in and out of the links, you'll be able to kind of get a picture of all of the branches of this work. All right? I'm going to take you into the, and I'm moving through this quickly. This is not something you can go on and on about. So if you rotate down to communication, I called out really the return to normalcy, and I put it in quotes, but we really have moved back into active engagement with the community. And some things that have come out of that I think are real benefits that you see. The Zoom and hybrid meetings have really been layered in to allow people to sustain more attendance, and it's kind of a new practice, and that's really cool. We have robust viewing of sports and concerts, which has continued. Again, a new arm of the work, which came out of COVID. New outdoor activities have been added, as well as schools returning to having parents and community members at events. Those are real big goal targets around this reconnecting to community goal. The other thing is opening the schools to the community in meaningful ways. Some of that is slow to return, and in other areas it's really taken off. I just want to look at the fact that these are just a small snapshot of people who interact around this using and supporting the schools, and also we support their events because they need space. You see Westborough Connects events, sustainable Westborough events, Westborough Senior Center groups, Civic Club tree sale. The Wassa Ice Out is currently outside in front of Hastings. Voting in town meetings, which we host. Just a shout out to how much work it takes to host town meetings and voting. And our custodial teams and our tech teams are the infrastructure that really supports making that go smoothly. And they do a great job with it. And we've both increased the spaces they use and how many events we're having. We lent the van to the Senior Center for 2 weeks. The fine arts support to community events is extensive year-round. I get continually stranded requests for people to have singers come to things or performers to come and enhance their events. And that just feels like a really nice contribution that we give across the civic support of the town. And developing currently, we have a project which is very exciting, where the high school fine arts team of students and faculty are working to develop a new veterans memorial at the cemetery that's going in, the new cemetery that's developing at the end of town. They came to us and wondered if we might be interested in helping them design the memorial, and we are now coming into kind of the fruition of that work and having a design, hopefully, to present to them. So these are the ways that we work in the community that are kind of invisible, that are just continual. As well as all of our food drives and the community outreach that we do across all sorts of other civic work. So I think it is important to realize we've plugged back into all of that, but it pulls on time and energy in a way that we just really have to kind of stay after. And more to do in review. I want to work on getting the goals for engaging more parents and providing ways to enhance their school connections. I think the building principals have really done more with that this year, but there's more we can and should be doing, and extending and enhancing communication. Around the management and operations, I think HR has done a great job in the business office to streamline the workflows. In the document, those are noted as complete and ongoing for assessment. Student programs to diversify and focus on equity and option. The girls' hockey team is hopefully on track to be developed. Intramurals have added cricket and futsal, just, the responsive way that the district evolves to match to student needs and interests is busy and at play. The extended leadership model, as I talked about, and then to review completing the online curriculum frameworks. Daniel's team is working on that to be done by summer. Returning the training cycle on Munis and kind of lifting out the next tier of work with the town to discuss paperless workflow opportunities. There's some challenges related to that we want to iron out, and accessing a timeline of the potential redistricting. I think I'm going to push that to April. I'm just not sure that it's an urgent need right now in looking at the goals and things, but all of that is to be decided. And so I pushed feedback on that notation until April break. Lastly, if you look at facilities, Fails is open, the ribbon cutting is complete. The culture of outdoor living environments, I think, is well established here with a lot of strength in grades 4 through 12. The Wi-Fi has been put in place for outdoor learning. The furniture is available and well cared for by custodians to manage if it needs to be brought in for the winter and taken out. We definitely need, and the K-3 schools have looked at outdoor gardens, and many of them have established outdoor gardens and outdoor classroom areas. That's all part of the target goals around our work around innovating practice, the composting, and maintaining equity across the 6 schools in terms of the care of the buildings and facilities. And you can see that we have the Armstrong Playground going in, outdoor improvements as well at that space. Hastings is undergoing the improvements planned as we move towards town meeting, hopefully with the next stage there. Furniture cycles are moving forward as funding is available, and Fails being all set for a while. So just looking at the furniture cycle on the 5 schools to keep the furniture current, and you're beginning to see the meaningful impact of that at the high school. I think I enter more classrooms where the really antiquated square desk with the chair kind of attached to it, which is a very uncomfortable way to sit, are starting to cycle out, where you have separate seating and flexible desks. Just creates a much better classroom culture and climate and comfort for learning. And the buildings and grounds assessment, is out successfully to bid and underway. To do and review the climate action goals need to be reviewed again and looked at for meaningful targets for what's possible. And the safe routes to school with Sarah's transition, I feel is a little stalled, but I also feel like there's other people at play, the DPW and those groups who have to help us kind of maintain a focus on that work. Biking paths, walking sidewalks so that people can move through the community effectively. That's all part of the master plan at the town level. The schools infuse in there in terms of pathways for accessing walking to school and being able to both bike and walk safely. So I think we need to get back into the cycle of applying for those grants, and we need to figure out, are we in charge of it? Is the DPW, that type of thing needs to be reactivated. I would just close in saying that I think the strategic plan is serving its function. It forces me to keep goals on point and to make meaningful decisions about whether or not they're being put on hold, pulled to the front, or brought to fruition. And the document is just an accountability tool. So, data is important. And so that is where we are right now. End of year, you'll get an end of year report, which will give you closure on the work that is completed. And then we use the summer and summer leadership retreat to clean up the documents, to roll them over, to pull the goals for the next year, and to start the cycle again. So I'm sorry that's a lot to listen to, but it is pretty much the core work of the district across all of the areas: communication, relationships, facilities, management, and teaching and learning. So, the document gives you a tool to keep a sense of where we are, and then my report synthesizes it and kind of helps you digest it. So I feel very good about where we are at this point, and I look forward to bringing you the end of year report on the rest of the progress. All right?
Any questions or feedback on this side? This side?
Feedback, just, I think the new format is easy to digest, and then that other document where you can just keep going deeper and deeper is a great way to just make it, like you said, a way to take it in all at once.
Thanks. I think next year, what I'll do is, I even thought this while I was doing it, like I said, I'm making this up, is I would anchor the page numbers next to areas that I highlight in the memo. So if you want to toggle over to the document and hop to that page, you can, and I can give you kind of a crosswalk, if I get that mental space to get that done. But Andrea could help me do that. But you have to know the documents, you have to know what you want to point out to you. So it is kind of a piece of work that I need to do. But I think the team could do it. And I do have a subcommittee of a couple people from leadership team that, Sherry Stevens and Brian Callahan and Chris Martin, who helped kind of design the document layout. And so we'll be going through it tomorrow with leadership team in the morning and kind of giving them the update now that you've seen it.
I do appreciate just seeing the priorities and then getting the highlights. And like you had said, you don't need to get into the details on every goal, because you would spend all your time writing this and not doing everything else that you have to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And anyone who wants to see the long strategic plan, the long range, you can find it on our website under School Committee, if you scroll down from the menu. It doesn't give you the links, but it gives you all the details of so many of the initiatives that we talk about on a regular basis. It's a very good document to see exactly what's happening in our district. It is extraordinary. And you can go down a rabbit hole, through it all.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's also linked in one of the hot links on the main page of the website. So, you've got the hot links down the toolbar, and it gives you the strategic plan link there as well. Okay. And so Andrea and I already talked about meeting tomorrow after leadership team to just figure out what documents we want to post. The mid-year is for you. The end of year, and it's confusing to people if they see the document in too many versions. So I don't imagine that I will post the new updated one with the links until it completes through retreat at the end of the year. And then in the fall, you would get the new, you would see it posted with the updates completed. So, it's having a rhythm for how we want that to make sense to people and give them access to it, but not confusing.
Right. No, absolutely makes sense. Okay, so we're moving right along. Do we have a motion to move into executive session? Or, do we have actually, we have to read it.
I'll do it.
I'm sorry. Kristen?
I move that we vote to meet in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, the para-educators unit, because meeting an open meeting would have a detrimental effect to our negotiations. And under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to review and approve executive session minutes from January 18th, 2023.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Roll call vote.
Vincent, yes.
Edinburgh, yes.
Durrett, yes.
And the next regular session meeting of the school committee is scheduled for Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. We are now in executive session. I invite everyone now to exit the room unless you have been invited to attend this executive session. Have a good evening.